The multifamily sector continues to perform very well in most parts of the country. Certainly, for a lot of this cycle, there's been concern around the possibility that we might be building too much multifamily, perhaps not in the metropolitan area overall, but in the urban core, that relatively larger high rise Class A property. When we look at the addition of new units to the market overall and compare that to the way that households have grown in the United States, what we don't see in the United States, even at this late stage of the cycle, is a significant imbalance. And that becomes important for us when thinking about this question of whether or not we built too much. What we do see at the same time is that there may be some localized imbalances. There are certainly isolated core markets around the United States where, in that most urban area, we may have built a large number of studio and one bedroom apartments in highly amenitized, large, high rise Class A buildings. And then in relatively more suburban and transit-oriented communities of that same metropolitan area, we've not seen a commensurate addition in terms of workforce housing, relatively smaller, small cap or small balance properties. Overall, vacancy rates in the multifamily sector in 2019 remain near historic lows. And again, certainly there are some parts of the country within metropolitan areas, there are going to be some submarkets or micro markets where we see relatively stronger or weaker performance. But overall, multifamily vacancy rates remain exceptionally low. Now, that's allowed for rents to continue to rise. And again, depending on what market, submarket, micro market we're looking at, there's going to be some degree of variation there. But overall, multifamily rents do continue to go up. The outlook for the sector does remain strong, and in part it's because of that balance between supply and demand, and because there is such a strong opportunity, I think, to bring new inventory online in the workforce and small cap spaces. And thinking about whether or not supply and demand remained in balance, one of the important things to keep in mind is, again, a relative shortfall in the number of construction workers and in the cost of materials. Both of these have placed significant upward pressure on the cost of development in the United States. And so while there's been a lot of activity in the multifamily sector, one of the constraints that has actually limited some of that new supply is that construction costs, again, both wages and the cost of materials, have been going up fairly rapidly. The upside of that is that supply and demand have remained in better balance than what we've seen during previous cycles. In spite of that, development activity in the multifamily sector, that's really helped to keep vacancy rates as low as they remain at this point.